Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture and Mighty Thor Monday. Today we are looking at Thor 342 from April of 1984 in our weekly series running through the Walt Simonson run on Thor in the 1980s. We're going issue by issue. Nice little retrospective. I hope folks are enjoying it. Let's jump in with pencils and story. Walter Simonson, inks Terry Austin, lettering John Workman Jr., colors Christy Scheel, editing Mark Grunwald, editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. So last issue, if you will recall, Thor could hear his name being called from somewhere by somebody, a worshiper, a true believer in Thor as a god. He vowed to find that person. We open this issue in Asgard with at Valhalla. And it is the end of the day. The fighting is over. It is time to feast. And Odin is there to share a cup of wine with Saga. And he seems concerned. And why is he concerned? Well, there is one seat left empty in Valhalla. One warrior whose soul was never recovered. And by warrior, not just a warrior, but a worshiper of the gods. And he believes that chair is soon to be filled, but instead of rejoicing, he says, but with his coming, I feel the closing of the circle, and the weight of years lies upon me, as it never has before. And I wonder, if the last hero does indeed appear, what harbingers of doom will he bring with him into Asgard? Methinks I hear their echoes already. That's kind of reminiscent of the Siege Perilous in King Arthur. And you'll notice even in the old days, there were stories drawn from King Arthur that they adapted to Thor and to the Asgardian myths and such. I want to say I think I remember Kirby and them, maybe it wasn't Kirby, but doing one based on like the Green Knight. So there is that element. I wonder if that was a little bit of inspiration for it. Well, back in New York, the woman who was injured, slightly injured. Of course, remember, this is an Asgardian woman. And I will say, you'd think that Thor might recognize her, Lorelei. I mean, she's the sister of the Enchantress. Maybe it's been a while. Maybe he hasn't seen her in a bit. Maybe the last time he saw her, she was younger, although obviously they have very long lifespans. I don't know. But she's being taken away in this ambulance, and she wanted to see him one more time, and he is smitten by her, no doubt about it. And she is hoping that when she's better, she can thank him more properly. And he's kind of certainly, no problem. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's go, guys. We've got to get rolling now, if you folks don't mind. And what is his new boss says, you dope. You didn't even get her name. No, I didn't, did I? So, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Captain Marvel, even though Thor obviously is not, shy around women necessarily. Well, he decides now, he's expected back on the site on Monday, so he's got some time off. He's going to go track down that voice. And so he changes into Thor, and he flies off with the help of Mjolnir. And we get, once again, elsewhere beyond the fields we know, a massive figure stands before a mighty anvil and a half-finished sword, as a great host murmurs with anticipation, when suddenly, let all now be silent. The black ravens of Odin have come hiding in the night, seeking answers for their master, but the darkness will not protect them, and without the dark to hide them, the ravens will die with the knowledge they have obtained. Let this, then, be the first blow against the power, of Asgard. Doom, and we see feathers flying. Have the ravens been killed? Have Hugin and Munin been killed by this guy who's maybe starting to look more familiar to people? We will find out later. So Thor's travels take him to Antarctica, where he finds a caldera. from a volcano. Of course, ice and snow all around. And when he lands within, he finds that the internal warmth has created this very pleasant microclimate. And he finds a village that looks exactly like those of the ancient Norse. And he also finds that it has recently been lived in. There is stew. It's cold now, but it's still fresh. Tastes pretty good. We got a little... There's Thor. I do think I see a little bit of Terry Austin in that, his inking there. But it's abandoned. And he finds all of these graves. These are all stones laid out in the shape, the pattern of a ship. And they're all pointing to this cave. And so he decides to go in to the cave. And when he does, he trips some kind of a trap, and all these spears come raining down at him. Also, the door closes. Doorways. Get a lot of doorways. We've seen a portal. We've seen some doorways. We have him bumping into Clark Kent, going through a door. A lot of doorways. Again, a lot of transitions in this run. But we flash before we see what happens to Thor back to Balder. A person thinks she's surprising him around his campfire in the woods, but he heard her. And in fact, he knows who it is. I can scarcely avoid it, it seems. I hear the sound of your men-at-arms in the woods. Will they carry me off if your beauty fails to move me? You were always lovely, Karnilla, but I never found beauty and evil seductive. What do you know of evil, Balder? You, whom the very gods envy for your goodness. So, Karnilla basically comes to say, if you're interested, drop by my castle, and she'll be waiting. And Balder sits quietly in the flickering light, staring in the dancing flames. Well, maybe he's going to follow up on that. We'll find out. Well, Thor destroys those spears, and he finds that others have been here. There's a dead warrior. And he says, I'm going to get to the end of this labyrinth. There's like a cave in. He has to dive into this little side tunnel to avoid it. So there's various kind of traps going on. And he finally gets to this warrior. Look well, little god, upon the visage of death. None have ever ventured so far into the labyrinth of terror. None have proven worthy to die by my own spear. Speak your name, little one, and welcome me. I am Thor, god of thunder, son of noble Odin, and heir to the throne of Asgard. If I am to journey today to the halls of death, then let it be in the fighting fury of my warrior's wrath. I love Thor dialogue. Over the top. So fun. There's the warrior in his armor. But when Thor takes a swipe at the guy, what does he discover? By the gods, I cannot believe it. Actually, Alfred E. Newman. No. We head back now for a moment to Fafnir, who has finally figured out that Thor didn't really hurt him when he smacked him with his hammer, and maybe he should have stuck around. And he busts out of the river to once again destroy New York City. Bring me Thor. And meanwhile, around Central Park in her apartment, we have Lorelei brewing up some golden mead. Now I shall be able to see Thor under quieter, more intimate circumstances, to thank him for rescuing me. And when I do, a little of this golden mead will ensure that he'll never think of anyone else again. So she's complaining on slipping him a Mickey. And again, obviously, she knew that Sigurd Jarlsson was Thor. She wasn't the least bit fooled. Well, Thor discovers that this warrior is, in fact, an old man. And he discovers the story. It was after the defeat of King Harald Hardrada in the year 1066 by Christian reckoning. When King Harold was slain in the invasion of England, his warriors were scattered. So we're going back quite a ways. And what happens is this particular dragon boat goes south, raiding, etc., and ends up driven by waves to Antarctica. And they find this volcanic caldera, and basically they build a village there, those who were left. And they've lived there for all that time, but he is now the last person there, and he had hoped to die a warrior's death. And so he called on the only person he could think of, Thor. If Thor answers my call, I can challenge him, and he can kill me. I will die fighting. I will go to Valhalla. Valhalla, that place with one empty seat left. And, but he says, fighting against death with the fearlessness of youth, not betrayed to it by age. I have lived to see the mighty Thor himself. I will die in bed and be content. And Thor answers back, no, grandfather, you shall not. Do you still think that your fate rests within yourself? That I have come all this way to discover a dotard seeking Valhalla through deception? You have called upon the gods of the icy north, and they have answered you. Now, your life is mine. Next, if I should die before I wake. We got a lot of stuff going on. This guy's name, by the way, is Eilif. So next issue, we got Thor, Eilif, Lorelei, Fafnir, Odin, Doom, Ravens, and everything else we can fit into a single issue. So, and then we get the 3 missing panels because, of course, it is Secret Wars, the big crossover that happened right around then. And, it was cool getting all the various heroes and villains together for something like that. If I'm completely honest, it really didn't do much for me as a miniseries. I think Crisis on Infinite Earths was a little bit more impactful than Secret Wars was. But if I'm completely honest, I could do without either of them. In fact, I can more do without Crisis on Infinite Earths. I like the old Earth 1, Earth 2 stuff. I didn't really need everything compacted into one. And after that point, almost every crossover now for Marvel has to have the word secret in it. And for DC has to have Crisis in there somewhere. So maybe someday we'll get, Secret Crisis of Infinite Wars when somebody ends up owning both DC and Marvel, which could actually happen at some point here in the future. And then we'll finally cross over and it'll all be one big, really messy universe. Who knows? But The Mighty Thor, 342, April of 1984. Simonson weaving the strands of these tales. We're learning more about the entity forging that sword. He has now struck his first blow against Asgard. So obviously we know that's his target. His target is Asgard, probably Odin as well. And everybody else is going about their business. Lorelei trying to, enrapture Thor, and Loki is helping. For what purposes? Oh, just to amuse myself. No. There's always a little bit more to it than that. We have this fella who wants to die a warrior's death. We have Fafnir awoken from his slumber by an earthquake caused by the forging of that sword, billions, trillions of miles away. He wants revenge on Thor, of course. And we also, remember last issue, we had that entity call upon a dark elf to seek out Odin's second son, which I'm going, does he mean Loki? He might mean Loki. Because I believe Thor is the first son. I think that's the idea here. Anyhow. Oh, and we also have Balder trying to find himself in the woods, now being tempted by Karnilla, Queen of the Norns. Man, there's so much going on. And you could see, too, a big emphasis on the Viking, on the Norse thing, a big emphasis on the mythic. This was taking Thor to an epic place, is what he was doing. And he did a great job with it, at least in my opinion. I'd love to hear from you in the comments what you think. If you're enjoying these videos, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. We're doing Mighty Thor Mondays all through 2026, issue by issue, the Simonson run on Thor. A lot of fun. I've been wanting to read all these in order for a long time because when I collected them, I got into comics right about the very end of Simonson's run. At the very end. So I've been collecting these things for ages. Finally, last year, got the full set. And I always kind of read them sort of, when I got one. So a little bit out of order. Fun reading them all in order again and seeing just how Simonson built this epic. So we're going to keep this going. You might want to subscribe. They're going to have, they do have their special little, what do you call it? List. We have old man now. I'm going album. Would I call that an album? A playlist. That's what I'm looking for. A playlist. We're going to have a Mighty Thor Mondays playlist that you can find on my channel. We also have the playlist for Justice League Mondays in 2025. And we have an Alpha Flight playlist from 2024. You might want to check those out too. At any rate, let's end this one with God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Read some Thor. And I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.